5-week instead of 10-week.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Scott, would we have to, it's my we'd vote to adopt a 10-week schedule and then like at our meeting at the 5-week mark, then revisit that?
We could decide tonight to amend my recommendation to 5 weeks and say that's the plan. We could communicate that out, and we would be watching that. My understanding from MASB and their legal is that either you can have me make those changes, or we would come back to the board to make the change, and it would need to be voted on. But I believe that is to us, certainly.
And I know that Rochester's doing that. They're doing that 5 weeks. So there is a district that's doing it and is going to gauge numbers as they move forward.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple quick questions. How do parents, I heard several parents, both in our Thursday regular meeting and tonight's meeting, talking about the desire to have the virtual academy, even though they hadn't chosen that because they thought that they would be able to go face to face. If we vote to go virtual, can you help our families understand what they would need to do so that they can go in and make that selection?
Yes, we would communicate that first thing tomorrow morning. I work with the team. We know that that's still open, so that is never closed. But yes, Joan, we would make sure that that's open because things have changed. Some parents' families may want to choose that.
Thank you. And then just relative to the 5-week mark, I know that we've had some discussion. We've had numerous phone calls and conversations, and I personally like the idea of having a 5-week window at this point, so that we can learn as much as we can, assess where the educational environments have gone. 5 weeks does give us enough time to look at other districts that are live and see if there are, spiking numbers, or there was some very disturbing news even just this morning with 100,000 cases in children that has occurred between, I think it was July 15th and July 31st, which accounts for fully 40% of all of the cases in children up to the age of 17 or 19, depending on how they categorize them, but up to 40% of that, that's 40% of all cases since the start of the pandemic have occurred in the last 2 weeks. Very alarming, and I think 5 weeks gives us a chance to kind of put our thumb in the air and say, where are we at from a data perspective, and what does the national and state and local outlook look like? So I appreciate the 5-week touch point very much.
Thank you.
Julie, Member Johnson?
Yeah. The learning labs and the ancillary services, I know that those are all in the beginning parts, but would those be very soon after we started school? Or like within a couple of weeks? Or, because it's hard to have that once kids start to get behind.
Right.
So is that something that we're looking at immediately?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about the general ed population, we know that assessments are going to need to be taken. I don't know what the timeline is on that, but I think it's required within the first 30 days. I think that's something we're going to want to do sooner. I don't know if Lisa wants to speak to that at all, but I know Dean was getting ready. We should be ready to put these services into place as soon as we possibly can. I know our teams will not want to wait for that. Does that answer your question, Julie?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because, I, thank goodness don't have kids that have special needs, but that really tore at my heart on Thursday, and we need to do something, even if they're little, maybe 5 kids or just a couple days a week or something, and the kids at Kingsley Montgomery, even 1 day a week is better than nothing. So I really would like to do that. And Joan, you know what? I agree with you. I've been saying this all along. I really struggle with the data that they have on kids because most kids have been sheltering in place since March. So that data really bothers me, and I'm really worried about sending some of these kids back to school, especially the ones that have asthma or, other things that are going on in the school, and I just don't want to send the kids back too soon and just have all out. guys went back and looked at the learning labs and the ancillary services. It makes me very happy. So that's all I got.
On that same note, if we could, on those two, especially the learning labs and the ancillary services, is it possible that we could add that as an agenda item for our next regular meeting, just to get some more detail and structure around those thoughts? I know that these are, things that it's a constantly changing environment, but it would be really helpful, I think, for all of us to get some visibility to what that will look like, as well as for our families.
Yes, I agree, and that's, I was already thinking that. And had we got a lot of time, that's a week from Thursday.
Yeah, all kinds of time.
That's a lot more time than we've been dealing with, so yes.
Thank you.
I can speak to that a little bit. I do know that in Monroe and Ferndale, they've offered these learning labs. And I know that in Ferndale, and I'm not going to get this right, but close enough, parents and students have the option, certain like let's say half the students have the option of going to their gym during a half day block, and they'll be socially distanced with a device, and there'll be teachers and paras there, there'll be support staff, so that students can be in the school. It's a slow roll into the school. They can have their devices, they can have some guidance from their teachers and paras, and then on another day, let's say half of your students would then be eligible to come in the morning or the afternoon, a half day block to complete some work. So it's welcoming students back into school. It's making sure they're setting up their systems and getting the protocols in place, and hopefully on our path back to face-to-face. At least that's the presentation that I read.
Yeah, one thing I would say is I want to make sure we design this with our teams. I don't know what that will look like. We might start a little slower, but we'll design it with the team. Certainly, I want our principals involved in that, and quite honestly, we may look at redeploying some other staff to do some of that. So those are some of the quick ideas that we were discussing just today.
Member Pickett?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. If we do end up voting tonight and we do approve your recommendation, Scott, I do like the idea of revisiting this at 5 weeks, but I also think, and I think you attributed to it, and for people listening, this is going to be looked at on a daily basis, I would hope, by our administration team and our teachers. And we have 2 board meetings in September, right after school starts, and I would hope that we don't wait for 5 weeks to revisit it. We look at it at each board meeting in September, and we hear how it's going. We look at other school districts that maybe have gone, how they're doing. If things are bad, so we can correct. And I encourage parents and staff that to reach out to you and our administration team, or speak out at a board meeting. I mean, don't hold it in. I've always said, if you don't speak up, if you have issues, it can't be fixed. So don't be afraid to come to a board meeting or send an email to your teacher or your principal of your school or to our superintendent or to board members and let us know if things aren't working and how it can be better, or if things are working. Because I think it needs to be looked at literally on a daily basis or weekly. And when you say 5 weeks, I like that better than 10 weeks. But I also think we need to let people know it's not just going to be 5 weeks and then we're going to look at it. It's going to be literally being looked at every single day to correct things that might not be going good. And again, this is if it goes that way. So I want to point that out. And then the other question I know a few people asked tonight again, and we did talk about it a little bit last Thursday, is the devices that we have. And I know we bought quite a few, but I also know there were, and I think somebody attributed to it tonight, and I've heard from some people that when the survey was initially done, they thought, all right, we're going to be in this for a few weeks, a month, we can get by. But now that, we're going into it and we're going to go hardcore, really education by remote, there's a lot of people that need devices because they have multiple kids in their house. 3-4 kids. Can you just kind of go over that, or is that a Darren question again, just to we can kind of let people know how that works?
Sure, and we've been talking about that. I know I'm going to bring Darren on. We've got some devices in the buildings that we will redeploy, but we've got some options. Darren, you might want to give us a little update on what those numbers are looking like right now.
Yeah, we're still within a good window of what we have ordered. I am daily getting requests in. I know the board, as you get requests, you're forwarding those on to me. I add them to my distribution spreadsheet. If we know that people need devices, I will continue to add them to the list. If we end up running out of the new devices, we have a plan to look at devices that are in buildings to see if we can distribute them. But right now, like I said, we're within a window of the devices that we purchased.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I want to ask a quick question about whether you're thinking on this. It seems to me it might be advisable, or I could be wrong here, to make a motion to, how do I phrase this? We might consider rolling back the overall time span of a fully virtual return with the expectation that we do revisit it at 5 weeks. And here's what I mean. We might say that let's plan for 8, but revisit at 5. In part, because if that would at least give people enough time to plan, and because if we do get to that 5-week mark and something's happening and we can't get there, or we're short resources, then we might be in a little bit of a pickle. So I'm wondering, I'm asking more than anything, what are your thoughts on that? Because a hard 5 weeks deadline, if things are looking weird, we might be in a tough spot.
I feel like the 5 weeks is, if we're continuously looking at it, we should have a good picture of where we're at. I feel like we'll know what's coming, and by the time we get to the 5 weeks, we would extend it at that point. I think part of what the 5 weeks does, it falls in line with what some of the other school districts are doing. It gives us time to assess what's happening in these other school districts here in Oakland County. And it gives parents hope. I got a 6-year-old right now, and I've shared the story with many people. She's energetic. I did the online learning and the learning packets just like everybody else. I was part of the group that was going to send my daughter back, in class. I have been looking at all the data, and it was a tough decision, just like so many other parents were saying. I think if we put the 5 weeks on it, we're continuously assessing and we're looking. I think once we get to that 5 weeks, we'll know coming in. And obviously, if the situation is bad, we'll get back again. I think the overall view is that, like Scott said, we eventually want to be able to get back in that classroom, we get back in that building. I'm liking what I'm hearing about the learning communities. And I think that could be helpful, because there are a lot of parents that we heard from tonight, who are in that situation where the schooling is not going to be an option because they have to work, and I'm in the same boat with my wife and I both working and trying to, teach a coming in first grader. So I think that, this is an opportunity where parents can at least get something, and we're looking at, trying to still keep everybody safe, and we're looking at all of the data continuously, so that, once we come to 5 weeks, we'll have a good look at where we're at.
I think what you might have been referring to is we need a decision point, but we also need so if the decision point is at 5 weeks, we would still need some reaction time to implement, communicate, and set that in motion. So I do think there should be some difference between the decision point and the implementation date, so that our parents and our staff and faculty can all be in a place where they can respond. So I know you mentioned a 5-week decision point with an 8-week. We would look at it 5 weeks, and then at 8 weeks it might be when we implement. So that's 3 weeks in between. I'm open to hearing what other board members are thinking relative to timing and our administrators as well, because they're going to need a chance to react as well. So,
Member Patricia?
The 5 weeks, again, I don't know exactly what date it would fall on, but is that something that would come up under our normal board meeting? Or would we have to have a special one, or just something the administration would make a recommendation to us, say, hey, it's looking good. At the next boarding meeting, we're going to make this adjustment or that adjustment. I asked the 5 weeks, could we align it with a board meeting? Megan would have better information on that, looking at a calendar. So I don't know if that might just fall like at our second board meeting in September. If again, that wouldn't be a 5 week period, maybe it'd be the first one in October. I don't know, but something along them lines. But again, we definitely need where are we, and now we will implement it, and it takes a little bit of time for that. So I agree with the rest of the board on that. I'm just looking for a time. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for a time so it would flow into our regular board meeting, so we don't have to have a special meeting to disrupt it somewhat.
Mike, can I just make a quick recommendation? And I know we're going on 4 hours, and I know there's a lot of people. I mean, we're almost 900 people still here, and they're anxiously waiting to vote. But I almost feel guilty that we're really starting to chat more and deliberate, and I think we have still quite a few people that want to speak, and I think it would be in our best interest to let's kind of quit talking. You know, we heard Scott's presentation. Let's go back and let the community speak, just so we've heard each and every one of them, and we've given them their time to speak before we really deliberate too much more.
I would support that.
Okay. Julie, you're muted. You're okay.
Yeah, I know. I keep doing that. I just have a quick thing. Somebody had asked me about a device, and I'm like, well, just go on the website. And they couldn't find it, so then I went on the website. Then I texted Kelly, so I interrupted her vacation, and she told me to have them email Darren. Is that what we want people to do? Should we give out Darren's email, or should we give somebody else's? How about it, Darren?
I'll take them however you get to me.
Okay.
When people are calling buildings, they send it to me right now. So.
Okay, can you give your email address just for people listening?
Do you want me to put it on the chat?
Sure.
It's HOLLED01 at WSDMI.org, and I'll put it in the chat.
Thanks,
If I could just, I just want to make sure we level set expectations. I think we have a huge audience out there. We do not have a device for every single student in our district, not even close to it. And they're very, very difficult to get your hands on right now because of the massive demand as a result of the pandemic. So I want to make sure that when we talk about these devices, that there is a true and genuine need and not a want. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs, but we definitely cannot, we do not have the wherewithal to provide a device to every student. So I just want to make sure that we're level setting expectations for our community, that, you know, there are just not enough devices out there that meet the needs of our security and our framework needs and available to us as a school district. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Joan. And I will tell you that most parents that I've spoke with have been very, cognizant of their requests, and I appreciate that. So yes, we ask that people only ask for what they need, and we will do our very best to fulfill that.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, let me summarize here really quick. So the superintendent has proposed a modified proposal here that we start the year fully online for some determined amount of time, and that's an open question for us because there does have to be some lead out time. If we say 5 weeks is decision time, there does need to be time to adjust, prepare. That plan has been, the additions include the creation or establishment of some sort of learning lab, learning pod, The shape of that is to be determined, but what that will do is it will help to welcome students back into school. It will provide support for students who need it. Also, going forward with the understanding of our ancillary services for our students who need them, we will be meeting those goals. And again, the shape of these we're going to be working on. Then finally, with the understanding that we're going to be monitoring, adapting, and reevaluating as we go. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Some of these have a little bit more meat on the bones, but I want to summarize that before we open it back up to audience comment. Board members, anything else before we do open it back up to audience comment? Okay, so again, talking about our modified return to school plan. We're going to return fully virtual for some determined amount of time, but whatever that's going to be, it's going to be a 5-week reevaluation. We've got learning labs or learning hubs, or we're going to be meeting the needs of our ancillary services and focus on adapting. So, okay, board, we're going to take a back seat here. We're going to invite some of our friends back in.
President Ristich, I'm sensing that Nadine may want to say, do you want to say anything on the ancillary services, Nadine? I want to make sure that we don't, I'd like to under-promise, over-deliver.
Thank you, Superintendent Lindberg, for that.
Terrific. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the opportunity just to provide a little bit of clarification. Certainly we have heard the concerns and the feedback from our parents regarding our students that have special needs. So our plan at this point is certainly to come back to the Board of Education as Mrs. Sutherland has asked us to do at the next board meeting, and to provide a more in-depth structure as to what that will look like. Certainly, we recognize that providing those services, many of those services to our most critically at-risk students are going to be very important. And so I'd like to have the opportunity, knowing the direction of, some things that have changed tonight, to meet with some of our ancillary service providers and to, get a plan from them that I think will be important for the community to hear, and give us some time to have those conversations, so that again, we're on the right path with how our staff can best, provide services that again are going to be important to our really critically involved students. So if we can have just a little bit of wiggle room with that, that would be certainly appreciative. In terms of ancillary services, when we talk about that, we talk about school social work services, we talk about occupational therapy, speech therapy, and we know that one service area that's really been difficult for our families has certainly been that physical therapy. It is physical therapy that has not been one that you can address virtually, and that is that area that we really need to spend some of that time now with our physical therapists and hear from them and work with them, and then develop a plan that they know that they can, best meet the needs of students. So recognizing that, these are very, very important, areas that our students need to continually grow and be safe and meet their goals. We'll have those conversations with staff. We'll certainly be meeting with our HR department as well, and certainly our association and all the other stakeholders. We'll come back together, as Mrs. Sutherland has asked, for a plan, but have a little bit more comprehensive. That would work for folks involved. Does that sound like a palatable plan with everybody involved?
Very good. Perfect.
Sounds great to me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll get those things wrapped up with folks, and we'll get back with you and get you a plan in place here at their next board meeting. And that'll be before the school year starts, so parents will know. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Canadian. Okay, colleagues, let's welcome some of our friends back in here. Again, a reminder, 5 minutes to address the board. Okay, let's welcome Misty in. Hi, Misty.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thanks. I just want to say I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I don't think that this is an easy decision for anybody involved. I'm just going to speak on my personal situation. I have 2 boys in a CI classroom at Riverside, and for ancillary services, they would absolutely pretty much refuse to get on any virtual learning. They have a genetic condition as well as autism. So anything that we can do to get them face-to-face for some of these is extremely important for them. And I just wanted to put that out there for these kids that, the virtual stuff just doesn't work for them. It's pretty much useless. It was like pulling teeth to get them to sit at the very end of a session for them to be seen by their teachers and holding 90 pounds of energy and forcing them to be seen by, the staff for even a moment. So again, thank you guys for all you're doing. I know this is a tough decision for everybody involved.
Thank you so much, Misty, for that. Thank you. Okay, let's bring in CS. CS with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, I'm going to be brief because you did touch on some of the things that I was going to give my concerns about. I do have 3 children in the Waterford School District. They are at Grayson. I have the incoming kindergartner. I have a 2nd grader and a 5th grader. And I first wanted to say that my heart goes out to the parents that had to make a tough decision and did opt for in-person instruction. I did opt for a virtual academy. But I can empathize with their frustration of having to decide between income and childcare and also learning structure for those that were having some issues during the time in the spring where we were trying to adjust. Google Classroom for us, it did provide a little bit of inconsistency. The teachers were phenomenal. They did the best that they could, but since it was something unexpected and there was no preparation, I could see the inconsistency between teachers, even with another family member that's in the same grade as one of my children, and how their teacher did things and my child did things. It left some to be desired, so to speak. So I can understand the parents' concern with the Google Classrooms and the consistency with that, as well as I have a child that receives ancillary services for speech, and we did Zoom meetings for that, and they went very well for her for that. And I just basically had questions regarding the supporting materials for those that did opt for virtual academy, or if we do go back with all remote learning, the supporting materials for parents, because I had an all-out debate with my 4th grader at the time about what was an improper fraction, and I thought I was right and I was wrong. And the packet saved my life because the answers are in the back. But to have some supporting materials would be great so that we can be sure of what it is that we're trying to help them acquire. And there's not that gray area because no one wants to see their children be unsuccessful, especially for something that's not of any of our own doing. You know what I'm saying? We were all thrown into this without any preparation. So outside of that, that was pretty much all that I had to say. Was just wondering what that supporting material would be for the parent, even though the teachers would be helping them in the ingenuity, but we would still be sort of like the learning coach, as in making sure that they're on task and doing what they're supposed to do. And I don't want to just say, hey, go sit on the computer. Like, I'm a hands-on parent, so I want to make sure that I have the materials to make sure they're staying on task.
Yes, thank you so much for that. We're jotting it down. We're gonna circle back to it. If not tonight, that's an important point. So thank you, CS, so much for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's bring in Lori Runk. Hi, Lori.
Hello, board. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I want to thank all of you. And again, it's a tireless, thankless task, but I'm here to give a public thank you to all of you. And to Superintendent Lindberg, the the dynamic nature of what's going on in the district, I think, is missed by anybody that didn't sit on Thursday night's call of last week, because so much has changed since then, which is showing that you, all of you, are really listening to everyone. You're reading every comment. You're taking to heart how people are truly feeling and coming up with solutions. And as a teacher, I'm reassured, and I'm really proud of the work that our district is doing at the building level, at the district level with central administration, and with our school board. So kudos to all of you for the efforts you're making. It's going completely noticed. A couple of things. I heard it last Thursday. I heard it again tonight. That Waterford School District is just following the pack with all these other districts that have decided to start virtually. I'm going with the feeling that the parent that said, we can't be at home with our kids and not working, so teachers don't have to work. I'm thinking that's not what she meant with her verbiage, but I just want to address those two things and the social emotional learning, continuity, and anxiety. We know as educators that we work with the least restrictive environment when we're working with our special ed population and any child that receives ancillary services. In a gen ed classroom, like a straight fourth grade, a general education classroom, we work with all students to meet their needs as much as we can in the classroom. That being said, I want to reinforce some of your points, Superintendent Lindberg, about the choice to go fully virtual. Because if we don't, and we go to in-person learning, for the parents out there that want it, for their kids that need it for their social emotional development, it is a scary reality for those families that have more than one child in different classrooms. That if there is a threat of a positive COVID or coronavirus, then that class has to shut down for a minimum amount of time, anywhere from 3 to 10 days, depending on whether testing happens or whether the minimum deadline passes according to our roadmap that was released to families a couple weeks ago. So if my class is affected with a possible positive case, my children have to stay home, other children in the family don't. So how do families handle that situation if one child has to be home quarantined and the other child doesn't? Does the whole family stay at home then? And the uncertainty with work is far more precarious with that scenario than any other. So we talk about least restrictive environment. Now that child's education is interrupted. They're pulled away from their friends again. They don't know when they'll be able to go back. They're now worried that they might be sick. Is that helping or hindering their learning? The answer is it's hindering it. This has nothing to do with whether or not we teachers want to be back in the classroom and whether or not we feel safe. I'm a single mother. I have a senior in high school. She's in a different district. She's likely, well, she is home. They declared virtual, so she has to be at home, but she has 2 homes she could be at. But I can't choose whether or not I work. None of the other options will cover my living expenses to allow me to take a leave. So this is my reality, and I take it willingly, and I know that I have that risk. I'm not afraid to be back in the classroom, and I don't know any of my colleagues that are, unless they have circumstances that are comorbidity-based, or they have a second income to afford their living expenses. So this isn't a question of teachers wanting to work or not wanting to work. All of us are in this because we're in it for the kids. And I just want to make that clear that the least restrictive environment right now is the one that waits to see, as we slowly integrate, whether or not we're keeping these cases at bay, because that's the goal. We can't compare Michigan to Florida. They're 2 totally different states that have been governed 2 totally different ways. We had a massive outbreak, a very big scare. They did not. They have a very big scare now because of restrictions or lack of restrictions. There's no comparison between the 2. My sister is a nurse practitioner in emergency medicine at University of Wisconsin-Madison Hospital. They have very few cases reported and very few deaths, and they have gone virtual for the start of school. It has nothing to do with the state. It has everything to do with per capita ratios and population density. So we've got to be smart, and I appreciate you being cautious, because it was Birmingham Schools superintendent that put out the statement that I saw today. I don't know when he put it out, but Mark Diatsek, superintendent of Birmingham Public Schools, said we can take extraordinary measures to close learning gaps. We cannot recover a life lost. So with that being said, the least restrictive learning environment right now is to go virtual in the short term so we can be back together in the long term. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your efforts. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. Thank you. Okay, let's bring in Samantha H. Hi, Samantha. You have 5 minutes to address the Board of Education. Samantha, thanks for sticking with us. Samantha, I'm going to give you one last invitation here, and we can come back to you. Okay, Samantha, we're going to come back here. Let's bring in Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi, did you miss me? I know you guys have been through so much, so I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to ask how you're doing, because I know how we've been doing. But yay, thank you for starting from home. Really quickly, Delaney's got asthma, and the fall weather kickstarts it. And we spent all fall trying to keep her out of the hospital. Been like that since she started school. So I was thinking, great, these couple of months, she'll get past it, she won't miss all that school, and she can start again, and she'll be healthy, she won't miss all the school. Google Classroom, I heard you talking about it, so I'm like, Delaney, was it really that bad? And she said, no. You know, she got herself, I imagine it would be hard for the younger kids. But she ended up with a 3.75. Normally she gets a 4 or 0. So, now, I wanted to ask one more time, I've got my eye on the clock here. If you're doing Google Classroom again, is there any hope for music? Because I know that you did keep the music going, or is it too late to even hope for that?
Karen, that's a great question. We're going to circle back to that. I think we can probably answer that one tonight. So we're going to take note of that, Karen, and we're going to come back to it. I want to give everyone the opportunity to ask their questions, and we're going to make sure that we're going to get our understanding.
Thank you very much. Thanks again.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Karen. And to be clear, we still do need to make a motion to vote. We're listening right now to everyone's comments. So let's bring in Galaxy Z Flip. Hi there, you're with us.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I do apologize. I didn't put my name in there. I'm Tiffany. I have 3 kids in the school district, 2 in elementary and 1 in middle school. Just like for most people, the spring was an absolute nightmare for us. And I know it was thrown together hastily, just trying to get them something for that last little bit of the year. And I want all the teachers who may be on right now to know that I personally have no ill will against any of the teachers for how things were handled or how they kind of adjusted to the new normal. We elected to have our kids go back face to face. We actually are very fortunate. My husband stays home, and I am a nurse at a long-term care rehab facility, so I actually support our household by myself. So we actually have the ability to teach our children at home. The issue with our children that we found in the spring is that 2 of the 3 did terrible. They just couldn't focus. And oddly enough, the one that did okay was one of my 2 boys that have ADHD. So every kid is so individual I'm very fortunate that my kids are very healthy. That's one of the reasons why we elected to do in-person instruction. I've been through COVID since basically day one. At one point in our facility, we had 30 positive patients, and I was one of the lucky ones that ended up on the COVID unit. So I've seen this. I've dealt with this. I've been, knees deep in it since the beginning. I understand the risk, but I also understand that it takes up to 2 years to build herd immunity. It's going to take possibly even longer than that to get a vaccine that people feel safe and comfortable partaking in. So while I've been listening and I feel okay, a little bit more okay now that we're talking about like a 5-week timeline and stuff like that, I really feel like we have to adjust. For the foreseeable future, masks and social distancing and all of that is going to be the reality. My kids understand this. My daughter, we were in Costco earlier tonight. In fact, this board meeting went so long, I literally did my Costco shopping during the board meeting while I was listening to you guys. She is going into 2nd grade, and she said, I know, Mommy, we can send them a video showing us how good we wear our masks in Costco. Like, these kids get it. They do. I understand some of the real small ones might not, but my 2nd grader understands. She understands, like, how important it is for her to wear a mask. I've educated them on if they feel like they can't breathe right, to walk away from kids, from an area that's got lots of kids. Take it off for a moment, as long as they're by themselves, and then put it back on and go back. They know how to wash their hands. I really, really think on some levels we're underestimating how smart these kids are. And actually, they adapt better than most of us adults do, because they've been doing things the way they've been doing them for a whole lot less time. I guess I just wanted to kind of share a little bit of my thoughts and feelings on the whole thing. We as a family, we will adapt. We will do whatever we have to do to get them the education they need. But I really feel like, while I understand you guys are trying to be cautious as far as like looking at numbers and, doing like a slow start, I do understand that. I also understand the fact that this is going to be the normal for the foreseeable future. So we're setting precedents right now that's going to follow us through the next at least year, if not 2. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Okay. Megan, quick question. My internet cut out, but it looks like we're still recording, right? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Lindsay, the floor is yours.
Hello, how are you all?
Good. You?
I'm well, thank you. My name is Lindsay Tyrell, and I am a teacher at Stefanski Elementary, or Early Childhood, GSRP, and I just wanted to read something quickly, hopefully in 5 minutes, that I had written down earlier this week. And it said, Jim Henson was right when he said it isn't easy being green, nor is it to be a parent or to be in education, or both at the same time, at a time like this. When COVID demolished the rest of our school year on March 13th, 2020, I think we all finally realized that nature is smarter than we think. However, like any other natural disaster, we rose from the rubble, dusted ourselves off, and began rebuilding. We didn't need the school building to be able to connect with our school family, just like you didn't need a place of worship to serve your God when they closed their doors. We all found a way. It might have not been blue ribbon worthy, but we did put our own sparkle on it. And you know what? We did it because of you.
And for the most part, it worked because we worked together as a team. A solid foundation and a true testament of what a village can really do to raise children. We worked our butts off to accommodate every child as if they were still in the classroom. Our locations may have changed, but not our positions. Food service worked day in and day out to keep bellies full and to sustain grocery budgets, even for the weekends. Administrators offered technology to every home that was in need. Principals and secretaries answered countless emails to keep us informed and to keep staff spirits alive. Personal cell phone numbers were given out by social workers and psychologists alike. Materials were made available for free. Teachers turned spaces in their homes into little classrooms. IEPs were conducted in an orderly fashion by PT, OT, speech, and so on. Some of us even drove to your homes just so we could be near you. We missed you. Your child's work and personal items were not discarded, but rather treated like the little treasures they were and returned to you. This took a lot of energy, time, and paperwork. That partnered with having zero access to our resources because we weren't allowed in our buildings, let alone our classrooms. I'll let you imagine what that looked like for a minute. Keep in mind, this was for all ages and stages of kiddos, pre-K through high school, and we did it for you, for us, and most importantly, your children. Have you forgotten this? I still remember you rallying behind us, applauding our efforts, showing your gratitude and appreciation for what we had done without a moment's notice. You showed us kindness like never before. And now where are we? Stuck. That's where. Between a rock and a hard place. All of us, divided on our own beliefs and opinion, all while losing our faith in one another. We got to get that back, and we have to be quick because time is not on our side. Emotions are high, and if you're like me, sleep is running low, which is not the ideal combination. Alongside with ultimatums, it doesn't look good. It can downright get ugly, literally. As I muster through my day and try to fill it with things I normally would do in the summer, I am quickly reminded at night, as I lay on my tear-soaked pillow, how hard it has been and how now I have more questions than answers than ever before. We're not so different now, are we? We don't know what we don't know, and it might not even be up for debate in the upcoming weeks. So please, cut us some slack. Believe it or not, this is way bigger than calling a snow day. You don't know what you don't know. Can't you see it in their faces? Hear it in their voices? They're hurting too. They're angry too. And every day, fists clenched, they are willing to fight to do their best. Of course they want what you want, what I want, what we all want. They hear you, but can you just listen to them too? It's hard to hear with all the noise, but they know what's best for kiddos, and that's to be in school. You would be wrong to think otherwise. My goodness, we take trainings on how to protect your children, and if an active shooter comes on the school grounds, we know we might have to use our bodies to shield them. We might even end up taking a bullet for them. And personally, I wouldn't change that because I didn't have a choice and I didn't know about the immediate risk that day. If I had known, we wouldn't go in. Lives saved. But there's no special training for this virus or meds to make it go away. This is a different risk, and I personally cannot imagine a child or one of their family members from my classroom succumbing to this virus when it could have been avoided. Nor will I envision what would happen to my family and what my husband would do as a widower, having to watch our son grow up without his mother. A lifetime of trauma sounds much more tragic than 10 weeks of virtual schooling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's bring in Rob Nichols. Hi, Rob.
Can you hear me?
We gotcha.
Okay, just a couple things. I won't keep you long because I know this is running late. But your last caller was talking about keeping it safe. The teachers shouldn't get by. Go talk to the workers at Kroger's, at Meijers, at Walmart, who were working through the absolute worst timings. You know, it might not be safe to go back to school, but it might not be safe in 2 years, like your other caller would say. So at one point in time, you just got to do the best you can and move forward. Because what are you going to do if there is no vaccine this year or early next year? just keep kicking it down the road 5 weeks at a time. And for the superintendent to say he's not trying to follow, but then you keep hearing all of the other school districts are doing this and the other school districts are doing that. Well, then you're following. So do what your people want and not what everybody else is doing. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Rob. Okay, let's bring in Shauna. Hey, Shauna.
Hello.
Shauna.
Hi, I have a couple questions. I listened to the town hall on Thursday, and I have two issues. One, I don't have a clear understanding of what an actual virtual day is going to look like for the remote learning. Like most everybody on here, again, two-person working home, we cannot, and according to the town hall, you're going to take attendance. It's impossible for us to do that on 5 days a week. It's just not a reality that can be met. So I have a concern about the absence issues and the non-flexibility of the remote learning. The other concern I have now is also, you're saying, well, childcare is available, people got approved today, but when the childcare notices go out, because we do use childcare, they said that we could not get childcare unless we needed it 5 days a week. We don't need it 5 days a week, we only needed it 2 days a week. So we did not sign up. And now I have not checked to see, but I'm gonna guess it filled up pretty fast. So now we have no childcare and we have no answers as to how we're supposed to put our kids in 5 days a week when we're not. It's just not possible. So we need to have something that is semi-concrete to know what the days are going to look like, if there's going to be any flexibility, because if not, then we have to consider homeschool. And we as parents, and I know everybody's trying to figure this out, but as the school days approach, I don't want to be the last minute, oh, I'm yanking my kid out, and my kid's trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? You know, do I get to go to school or don't I? So I need to know, or we need to have something that's a little more concrete as to, are you going to be flexible for parents who work? If not, then we need to be able to make that decision, since it's obvious, or mostly obvious, that we will not have an in-person option as of right now. So I just had those couple questions, or how that can be addressed.
We're going to loop back to that. We're going to talk about, you take note, your question is, we need something more concrete about what it looks like a day in the life of virtual learning, and that flexibility, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris Wall. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, so kind of to echo the previous speaker, I guess we need a clearer picture of the remote. And I guess my question would be exactly, obviously we selected in person, but you know, we're gonna need to do the remote. And I'm not talking the virtual, I'm talking the remote. Will the teachers be inside the school in their own classroom doing the remote classes? I guess that's my first question. Or are they also going to, as in the spring, you know, obviously from their homes or their basements or their offices, you know, within their homes? So I guess that's my first question. And the reason why I ask that is we've had some feedback from some teachers that we know in other districts that they are allowed to go into, well, they believe they're gonna be allowed to go into their actual classroom that will be remotely. Their students will be remotely, but they're gonna be able to go into their classrooms and actually teach their classes.
I think Superintendent Lindbergh or Lisa are going to address this when we get back here. We finish with the comment, Chris. We're gonna be back to that one.
Okay,
so what
that's
does
all
a day
I
in the
had.
life of
Yep,
okay.
that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Hi, Heather.
Hello, this is actually Patrick. My wife was signed in at first. I was at my son's soccer practice at the beginning of the meeting and joined in late. So,
hi, Patrick.
And I will do my best to be brief as well. A couple of things. I appreciate the fact that the superintendent proposed an alternative to the 10 weeks that he initially proposed, because I really felt personally that was pretty unacceptable. I feel like 10 weeks, 5 weeks, in the end, when what defines that goalpost and says, okay, well, at 10 weeks we can go back to school. I mean, at November 6th, all the talk is, well, we think cases are rising and they're going to continue to rise, and globally they think there's going to be this second wave. Well, this second wave, it's going to hit in November, December, and January, and how are we even going to say that November 6th is the right time to go? In my opinion, it's actually best to start as soon as possible and get into the school year and see how this works. Because as things progress, you have to be able to, as was mentioned in the last two callers before me, be flexible. We have to learn how this works. We can't just say, oh, well, the numbers are low enough now, we can send them back, and then we haven't had any experience with it. Right now is the time to do that. This is the opportunity to do that. That's the first thing I have to say. The second is, as a business owner, when COVID began, I had to sit down with my partners and we had to establish what we call tripwires for how we managed our business through this pandemic. Unfortunately, decisions that were made within our government and locking down businesses ended up causing the end of my business. But that's neither here nor there. We never really even got to follow through with those tripwires that we developed. But I don't hear any tripwires that say, okay, at 5 weeks, if numbers are X, Y, Z based on this information, well, then we can go back. Or at 10 weeks, if numbers are X, Y, Z, then we can go back. Those things need to be established and they need to be made public so that parents can hold the board and the superintendent accountable to their work. Because I think that is really important. We could sit here and be accepting of the decision that's made, but if 5 weeks down the road the goalpost gets moved, that's really kind of unfair to us again. You already decided, you've already given us the option of saying we want our kids to go back to school. We feel safe, we trust you, and we trust ourselves, but you're saying, well, no, you know what, you guys didn't make the right decision, so we're going to make it for you. So I understand and respect that you're going to do that, and we have to deal with that, or you're prepared to do that. I'm not saying you have already, but that is a concern that I have is, you're telling us 5 weeks. Okay, well, at 5 weeks, we're going to reassess. Well, what does reassess mean? There really isn't anything defining that at this point, and I appreciate that you're talking about it, but there has to be a public declaration of what that means. Lastly, as the superintendent gave his presentation there, he talked about, I think it was 469 teachers live outside the district and have their own children. 552, and you listed off all the options for how they can choose to avoid having to come back to work. I don't know how else to put it, so I apologize if I'm offending anybody. I want to make very clear, I have a great respect for teachers. I have a great appreciation for what they did accomplish in the spring, although I will say it had its pitfalls and its failings. And we had 3 months to get it better, but it didn't seem to really change. And here we are, we're making a decision with 3 weeks to go, saying, well, we'll do it better, but really, are we going to do it better? So the great concern I have here is you're saying we really, we know that a massive percentage of our teachers are not going to want to come back, and they have the option to take these things. Well, they're going to have the option to take those things at 5 weeks. They're going to have the option to take those things at 10 weeks. It's all personal choices. at some point, as was mentioned before, you kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off and you have to force people to make decisions. Everyone in this world who's had to go back to work has had to make that choice. And the government has put into place options that give them the ability to become comfortable with the new normal. But after that 12 weeks, you've got to make a decision. Either you are no longer going to work and somebody has to replace you, or you are going to move back in, you're going to find a way to make it work. And the further we kick the football down the road, it doesn't really change. The teachers are still going to have fear about making this decision, and they're going to still have that option to take 12 weeks off. And that's only going to kick the football down the field even further for us parents. I as I said, I have a great respect for teachers, but we have to give the balance of power. We have to keep the balance of power equal here. And, if we give the teachers all of the decision-making power by saying we are not coming back to work, then we really put the parents at a real disadvantage. So, I just want to say that, because if the reasoning behind that is you're concerned that teachers are not going to be there, well, then start the clock. Because at some point, people do have to start coming to the reality, as I think it was Teresa or Tracy, I can't remember, three callers ago said. At some point, you have to accept that this is what life is going to be for a while, and we have to learn how to live it. And the government has told us, and scientists have told us exactly how we can make it work. And I think the school system has done a pretty good job, based on what they've described, of being able to accomplish that. Now, my son is sitting here, and he hears this meeting going on, and he keeps coming back to me, and he keeps saying, I won't do it. I won't do homeschooling. I don't want to do it. I want to go to class, Dad. This isn't fair. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. It's not your job to solve that problem for me. But the one thing that is indelible in my brain from what happened between March and June, and these things are not your fault, but they are the results of his need to be associated with something, to have a day-to-day routine, is my son has never had these things before, but he had massive panic attacks and night terrors and all kinds of emotional issues that he never experienced in the time when he's in school. And I will never forget those things. And the last thing I want is for him to be forced into a situation where those things come back into his life. As soon as school was over and the stress of that was over, his life changed and he got better. But the stress of trying to function in that environment really caused a lot of emotional issues, and I'm certain I'm not the only parent that had that. So that's all I have to say, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Okay, Emily. Or Brenda, I'm sorry, Brenda.
Yes. I just wanted to say if any of the Waterford teachers are still on and listening, that, you are appreciated. And if one thing that this pandemic has proven is how much teachers are needed. We need you guys. You're valuable. I mean, virtual learning and all that just is a pale substitute for what you guys provide. So I just want to say that, because that hurt my heart to hear the teacher feel like you weren't appreciated. And I heard that all throughout the Waterford community, that, us parents, we're not equipped to teach these kids, and that face-to-face instruction is so important. So with that said, I feel it's important that the teachers are comfortable. If that 5 weeks is to figure out ways to make it more comfortable for them, to make things safer, I'm all for it. I know, COVID's here to stay, so we're probably never going to have it go away with 0 cases. But, if we can work to make the teachers feel more comfortable, I'm all for it. Now, my son is in the music program, and I heard someone else mention that, and it sounded like you guys were open to making something with that work, and I really hope that is the case, because, in the grand scheme of things, that's probably not much, but on the priority list, but it is very, very important to a lot of kids, and if they could at least have some kind of connection with that, either in being able to, get together and practice in small groups, because the virtual did not work very well. It's not from the lack of trying of the teachers, trust me, it just doesn't work when you're trying to do an ensemble. So hopefully something can be worked out. But thank you and good luck. Thank you to the board as well. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Emily. Hi, Emily. Hi, Emily, are you there?
Hi. Oh, sorry.
How are you?
I'm good. I just, as a student in the Waterford School District, I feel that, like, I want to have as much not one-on-one, but, like, in-person class as possible because, like, I am a senior. And, like, as a senior, like, speaking for the senior class, basically, we all want to have, like, as much contact as possible, which I don't know if it's possible, but, that's just, like, some concern that we have, like, with my friend group or, like, with a whole bunch of our senior class. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Emily. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's bring in Katie S. Hey, Katie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
All right, so I guess I just wanted to start out and say that you probably would have saved us all much more time if you started with the presentation and then had us ask questions afterwards. I'm not sure how that would work out. But basically, this is a lose-lose situation. We are being forced to forsake our safety for our education or to forsake our education for our safety. What you as a school board have failed to provide is a coherent, clear plan. If you make the decision to go online, how are you going to deal with parents who can't be home with their children? Parents who can't afford daycare, parents who can't supervise their children as they're on their computers. We're watching you and we can see that you're bored. We can see you looking down, looking around as adults, probably texting on your phones too. So how are we supposed to maintain that with children? If you decide that you are going to make the decision to go in person, how will you deal with families that can't afford to send in their at-risk children, or those families that are at risk themselves? What about the families that need devices that you said that you don't have? No matter the decision you make, it will be met with tragic results. We need to move away from this decision that you've put off until the last second, and we need to start worrying about how you're going to handle the outcome of whatever you choose. As a community that was forced to choose whether they wanted to send their children back to school or have them proceed online, we deserve to know why you took that decision away from us. Your presentation was a bit of a hoax. We all knew this was the reality of your presentation when you gave us the choice to begin with, so why did you take that choice away? In a house of 4 family members, one being a teacher, my father came down with COVID after he was forced to return to work. It was a horrific and scary experience, but the decision was still made for my younger sister to attend in-person schooling when this all started. So why was this decision that we were forced to make, having gone through COVID ourselves, so abruptly taken away from us? We deserve to know because you have removed the situation that would satisfy the most parents, and as elected officials, you have not even had the decency to share why. In addition to this, I implore you to consider hybrid accommodations and not simply the half days, but perhaps Monday, Wednesday attendance full days and Tuesday, Thursday attendance rotating. Again, no matter the decision that you make, we lose. We need to focus less on I think we should or shouldn't go back because, and more on all of the things that you've thus far failed to prepare for. The scheduling of an impromptu emergency meeting later in the semester should be the least of your concerns. We just approved a bond for schools facilities, and I just pray that the next bond we see will be to increase teacher salary. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
just want to say that I'm sorry that you guys are here this late, and I wanted to voice my opinion because I am in the medical field. I am a mother with two beautiful girls. One is 15 and one is 7, Kettering and Grayson, but all amazing teachers. I think that people are getting really upset about this, about education, and it is important, but what's more important is our health and our safety. And I feel like it would be a huge mistake to go in person. You're going to have COVID testing every day, all day long. Kids don't inform their teachers nor their parents that their throat is hurting or their head might hurt. And temperature taking is great and all, but you could carry the virus and not have any symptoms. I thought I would be a good mom and let my daughter play around outside, you know, and come to find out one of her girlfriends may have COVID. It's not a good, safe environment to be having our children out there, and I'm kind of disappointed that some of these parents are angry at you guys, at the teachers. It's our kids' safety of health, not their education. I mean, their education is very important, but what good is their education if they're not here? I'm a mother who is also sick. I have breast cancer. I have granulomatous mastitis, a rare blood disorder. And if they bring that virus home to me and I go and I don't make it, then we've done all this in-person school stuff for nothing. And I think that doing the 4 weeks is perfect. I think this is not permanent. People are getting really mad about it, but this isn't a permanent situation. This is temporary. And we all pray to God that this will all go away and we can all live our normal lives again. But what if we can't?
Thank you so much for that, Erica.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Ross Grossman. Hi, boss.
Well, hello. So, my name is Ross Grossman. I'm a school psychologist in Waterford since 2003. I worked at the elementary, middle, high school, and post-secondary levels. So I've been around. So I wanted to say, this was in my email today, and it was perfect timing for this meeting. And it's from the Washington Post. This is not fake news, this is bad news. So this is from the Post. A report from leading pediatric health groups found that more than 97,000 U.S. children tested positive for COVID in the last 2 weeks of July. And that 97,000 is within a quarter of the total number of children diagnosed nationwide since March. So we are picking up speed. As of July 30th, there were more than 335,000 cases reported in children since this pandemic started, according to data from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association. Despite some political figures saying that children aren't affected, new research says the virus affects children in drastically different ways depending on age. With infants and preschoolers, it can inflame the blood vessels, and it may be especially contagious in toddlers who had more COVID up their noses. Even though they only had mild or moderate symptoms. And inflamed blood vessels, I had to look up, means that it weakens the artery walls and can lead to brain aneurysms. In older children, not adolescents, stops their hearts, and adolescence is the turning point in how the virus is affected and spread. Cases have spiked among 15 to 25-year-olds, which is middle, high school, and post-secondary, suggesting they may be driving the spread of the virus. So I have many concerns, but my first 3 are for the safety of the students. Black and Hispanic children, per the Washington Post, are 8 times more likely than their white peers to be hospitalized with COVID-19. When it's bad, it gets very bad. In Waterford, 32% of our students are minority students, and the biggest chunk of those are Hispanic. In fact, of all of our students, 13% of them are Hispanic. 10% of them are African American. My secondary concern is for the safety of the adults at their homes. What comes home with their children? for all the precautions that every responsible parent is taking, limiting contacts, staying home more often, wearing masks, washing hands. When your students come back home, they will have been with other kids whose families don't take masks seriously or other precautions. And we've heard people talking about the right not to wear a mask. None of us want to hear that your children have lost a family member. My third and really my last concern is for the teachers. We want to work. It would be so much easier to do our jobs at school. We still want to do our jobs. Now, I'm not minimizing that remote learning is a challenge for families at home to have online schooling, and the problem is that there's not a great answer either way. Any school staff who supports online schooling is worried about losing their students to COVID, and our students losing their family members, and losing teachers. And I'm old enough to say I'm getting up to those risk years. We don't want Waterford schools to be in the news like the Atlanta, Georgia high school, where 6 students and 3 staff tested positive for COVID after their first week of school, and maybe you saw that video where kids were passing. My cousin, the ER doctor, tells me that the second wave has started and scientists expect a surge in the winter months. When Michigan hits phase 3, the choice isn't the boards anymore. That's just some of the things in my mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ross. Okay, let's bring in Meredith. Hi, Meredith. Meredith, are you with us?
I think our only comment is the Washington vote is complete trash. It's useless. You just man. They recently posted some article about how great China was. It's garbage, and that's our only comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, I have the same concern that the one that was at the soccer place with his Patrick or whatever his name was. How can you really determine that at 5 weeks that we are only going to do virtual learning for 10? Because if we have a bigger surge than what we're having right now, at 10 weeks, you guys are going to tell us again that we're not going to go for another semester. So I guess I'm a little confused because he is right. You guys have nothing to guarantee that in November we are going to go back to school. It's all going to be based on what you guys feel is safe. But you have nothing up there showing us what it has to be for us to be able to go back. I guess is, is there something that you guys are going to have written out saying, at the 10 weeks, we are going back no matter what, even if the COVID cases are up, or at 10 weeks, if the COVID cases are up, then we're not going back, we're going to do another 10 weeks. Is there going to be something written explaining this to the parents? I guess I don't understand because we have nothing to follow. We're just confused because we don't know. You could revisit in 5 weeks. If the numbers never went up in that 5 weeks, it meant that we could really have started school on time. Okay, but now all of a sudden, 5 weeks, it looks good. You're making sure that you can reopen in November, but then 2 weeks after you make that decision, the numbers start skyrocketing. So then you guys have to backpedal, and now we're going to go another 10 weeks online. Do you understand where we're coming from on that at all? Or, I guess because it's really not been discussed, and he brought it up, and I was wondering the same question myself. Because we were a little confused about that. Are we going to have something written in stone saying that no matter what, after 10 weeks, we are going back to school. Is that how they're gonna roll it?
I think that's part of the championship, Stu. So thank you so much for that. Christina. Hi, Christina.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, my first thought is, at this point in our discussions, I think that it would be beneficial if we would leave the medical advice in the hands of the infectious disease experts. And we should also leave statistics and newspaper articles behind, because the news is different depending on who you trust. Additionally, I'd like to say that I will echo a lot of what Patrick said, as well as Sue just now. I do want to interject that one of the other teachers in the beginning, when I was able to hop on, said, you know, she felt like the parents were blaming the teachers and the administration. And I just have to say that, you know, I love the Waterford School District teachers. I'm not minimizing their concerns any more than they should minimize mine. All of our concerns are very real. We all need to individually assess our own risk and make our best decisions based on our own circumstances. And again, you know, you say that, you know, the remote learning will only be until November, but what happens differently in November, other than the fact that the flu will also be hitting us pretty hard. So, you know, we'll have flu and COVID, which, you know, are pretty similar symptoms. And Scott said, you know, it's not going to go away. So how long do we continue on this path? You know, just like what Patrick said, you know, there has to be a point, just like I had the point where I had to decide if I was going to go back to work or not. You know, I was going to follow the rules that my employer set forward, and I basically have to follow those rules if I want to continue to work. Otherwise, they're going to tell me, you know, good luck, find a new job. The sadder part of all of this is that, you know, some of these children, while they might not have special needs, they have different learning styles. And I know it's very difficult for me as an adult to sit in front of a computer all day for, you know, for however many hours, 8, 10 hours. I know that we don't expect our kids to do that much, but I think that, you know, what's really happened here is much of the administration, as well as our government officials, have really minimized the profession of teachers, thinking that, you know, the parents could do this. You know, it's very difficult as a working parent, and we need to continue to work to provide for our children. So, you know, one of the things, you know, our children are suffering, you know, their education, their social development, you know, their depression, you know, with these children's mental, you know, issues that they're all, you know, dealing with. They're having, you know, their challenges as well. At least in the spring, it was easy for them to go outside and play with their friends, you know, when their school was done. You know, it's a little bit different in winter when everybody's kind of hibernating and nobody's going outside. And the last thing I want to just, you know, bring up is, you know, how will our children be graded? How will we ensure that they aren't being left behind just sitting looking at a computer all day when remote learning is supposed to be required of them? You know, I mean, everybody has a different learning style. And, you know, I know my child had a very difficult time, and I know that the administration and the teachers did the best they could, and I really applaud them for that. But again, you know, we're all kind of asking these same questions, and I think that it's really critical that the administration be able to answer some of those during the next school board meeting. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Christina. Hi, Melissa.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. Sorry. Kind of caught me off guard. Yeah, I had some of the similar things about being a single working mom. I do have a freshman and a 5th grader at Mott and Beaumont. And some of my concerns obviously are that I will be working while the kids are at home, which I've heard a lot, so I'm sure you already know that's what the main concern is. But some of the things that I did not hear about were issues like my my son is in the STEM program, how is that going to be handled? Because obviously that's a lab where they're doing hands-on stuff. So if they're doing that remotely, how is that going to be addressed? If he was in technology last year and that was a joke, because obviously you can't do all the hands-on stuff because we don't have the right equipment. So if they're in the STEM program and they're supposed to be doing hands-on learning, how are they going to be able to do that through remote learning? And again, he's also in band. That was kind of hard too. Like half the time he didn't even take out his instrument because he's like, whatever, they can't hear me, they can't see me. And he really hasn't even picked up his instrument, and I don't even know how long, because I think he lost and made him lose interest, and he was really, really excited about it. So band and STEM are my two main concerns. We had some issues with Google Classroom, which I'm sure you've heard all of them, with like our laptops glitching. We do have electronics, fortunately, that they can use, so that's not an issue. Sorry, that's my dog playing with a toy. Where else was I? But I think that's it. And like what the last couple people have talked about, like if we're not starting right away, what is the number? Like for us to come back? Is it, if the numbers don't increase, or if they only have 2% increase, or like what is that number going to be for us to return to school? Is it, if we had a solid goal, like, oh, the numbers are below, there's no more than 200 cases this week or whatever. I don't, just throwing a number out there. Like, I think the board needs to look at that. Like, start with remote learning. It's going to be very, very hard for a lot of people, including myself, because I do work a lot of days, 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. So I'm not going to be home at all when the kids are home. And then even doing nighttime teaching with them or helping them, there's, 2 or 3 nights a week I won't even be home then. So, because I do some 12-hour days. So that's going to be a little bit tricky. And then just making sure, like, accommodations with the 504 plans, both my kids have those, and how that's going to be handled. So I think those are my main things. Basically, how is the STEM program going to work along with band, and what the plan is for, because it does sound like we are definitely probably starting remote as far as listening to what's been going on tonight. But what are the numbers? Because I don't really foresee them going down too much, especially going into the flu season. And so then we're going to be looking at maybe not even going back this year, which then we probably would have chose virtual, even though my son did Eduentity over the summer and hated it. So, but as far as kids listening to like mask wearing and stuff, I work with kids, and I'm telling you what, they are very diligent and remind the adults what the rules are. So I don't think it's going to be an issue with the kids wearing masks or not, or washing their hands or staying distant, because kids are little sponges and they will learn what those are. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so a lot of my questions have already been asked, so I'm not going to go over anything else. But one thing, I mean, they did give an email address to send a message, like if you're needing a device. My question related to that is, she said that, excuse me, there's not enough devices for every student, and obviously we know that. But what do you base your decision on as far as who needs one and who doesn't? And then my other question is, are we going to be receiving any kind of material or learning plans from the WVA? Because, I mean, if classes start in 3 weeks, I mean, we haven't received any kind of emails or anything from them, so I'm just wondering if they're gonna be sending something, and is there like contact numbers or emails that we can get a hold of them, if we wanna try and get information from them instead of waiting to hear something from them. And I think that's it. Just basically, how are you gonna base your decision on who's in need of a device over somebody else, and then when can we expect to receive any information from the online academy?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa. We're going to get those answers.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Sloan. Hey, I'm Sloan. Hi, are you there? Or maybe it's EMS phone.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess my only concern is I'm a single mom, and that's what I heard everybody else, concerns were. So I guess my biggest thing is if we do the online and everything, with me working as many hours as I do, from 8 to sometimes 7 o'clock at night, and there's nobody to reinforce my kids working and doing the schoolwork for, online, what would be the penalties if they weren't able to? Would I have to hire a tutor, or what exactly is going to happen? It's just I am not smart when it comes to teaching my kids. So if the teachers, like when we did for spring, at the end of spring, my son and my daughter really struggled. So with them struggling, and the teachers were amazing. My son's teacher was getting a hold of me and contacting him, but he was struggling because our computer isn't up to par and he couldn't get on and all of that stuff. So I guess the biggest thing is what's going to happen if the parents that can't enforce school at home, what's the penalty? Are the kids going to be held back? Just pretty much that. What's going to happen to the parents that can't enforce school at home? So, other than that, there's so many questions, and so many parents that are in the same boat as my family. So, just as long as there's more information and more guidelines on everything, I guess is just my concern. My kids need that one-on-one teacher, and I understand we chose face to face. So with the way that they were struggling with the online and not being able to get their questions asked if the class ended, or if my kids couldn't get online, or whatever the case may be, just more answers to be, I guess just more answers to the parents that can't do the online and enforce it because they're working, or by the time I get home from work, it's dinner time and then bedtime. So I don't know. I don't understand how it's gonna work with some of these kids with the parents that can't educate their children or don't have the means of educating their children. So other than that, I think that the school's amazing. I love my kids' schools. the teachers and everything. So other than that, I just that's my biggest concern is what's the penalty if they can't, if they can't get the assignments done or can't get a hold of their teachers, or if I'm not home and can't communicate with the teachers until I get off work. Just those kinds of questions.
I think as soon as we give the administration some direction this evening, they're going to set off and plan and start to get that information tomorrow morning. So
okay.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Heather Knuckles, welcome. Heather, have you stuck in with us? Heather, are you there? Okay, we're gonna come back to you, Heather. Zoe. Hi, Zoe.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Cool. So I am a student, and I have a younger brother and a younger sister. The younger brother going into 6th grade this year, or this upcoming year, and sister going into 10th. And I just kind of wanted to give a perspective of kind of a student going on and what happened in like the spring and March until now, pretty much. And to start off, for all of the parents out there, especially with children in middle schools and high schools, even like with your 11-year-olds, please check on their mental health weekly, because it is so important. And I don't think a lot of kids or high schoolers my age kind of portray that, but it really does take a toll on them, even if they're just in their room. And that's a huge thing that's been kind of a deal in my household the past couple months that we've been off school, and it's developed a lot of family issues that really are not fun. And I don't think that going back virtually will help really anybody, even if it's like needed or not. But I did have one point of, if your students do not have AP or honors classes, I do highly recommend that you put them in Ingenuity, because I did that for summer school and it was so easy. It might be boring, but it is very, very easy, and it is a very well set up, structured platform that your kids can actually learn through. And I learned through it instead of Google Classroom, where I did not learn anything, and I cannot learn anything. Specifically, me and my sister also applied to go back to school because we have honors and AP classes that we can't learn that at home. And that's very difficult, especially with an AP chemistry class, that you can't do that at home. And I think one of my other questions is, again, with the music program, why are all of these sports programs allowed to continue, but the marching band is not? That's been something that's been set up with the board of, or like, that hasn't been discussed pretty much yet, I don't think, or at least I haven't been told of, that we are not allowed to go back yet. And that's very stressful for me, being that it's my senior year and I'm already stressing about not being able to have a senior year. I would like something that would kind of combat that. And another thing with having the social life and everything about like, oh, kids won't wear their masks and everything, I believe, or actually I can tell you, I could honestly point out to you the kids at Mott High School that would and would not wear a mask. And majority of them, like 99.9%, would very much willingly wear a mask. And then the other percent that wouldn't, they can go home. And I feel like saying that the kids aren't going to be responsible enough, that's very much underestimating them. And yeah, I 100% believe that it is beneficial for everybody as long as it is safely organized to go back into school. But that's pretty much my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for sharing, Zoe. Cassie Hall. Hey, Cassie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Hi, this is Brandon, Cassie's husband.
Brandon.
Only being here. So I just want to start with when I joined the meeting, superintendent was giving his plan, and I did hear all the bullet points and and how he wanted to go about things. We started off with he didn't want to make this political, and I don't want to make it political either. I do favor one side more than the other, just like any average person. But you cannot say you're going to make it non-political and lead off with your plan that we are under Whitmer's startup plan. And you can look at Whitmer's startup plan and you can take suggestions from that and pull from this things that you like and dislike. But you can't take that as gold. You cannot say that whoever classifies us in stage 3 or stage 4, who determines that? We've never been through this before, but we have been through something, another pandemic with the H1N1, and I've been reading on the CDC's website what school was like. It was just a Google search. What school was like during the H1N1 outbreak, and they list on their pros and cons what they did right and wrong on the CDC website as far as when it came to school. And the biggest thing that I'm reading on here is straight from Janet Napolato. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She's Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. She did state that the new advice is being issued because once you close a school, as we saw last spring, that creates a very significant ripple effect on parents and businesses. And the ripple effect that is going to come based on the decisions that the school board makes. And I think that the voice of the school board should not be the voice of the entire community. I think the community, if you guys can take a Zoom meeting and take this and adapt to a Zoom meeting, we should be able to adapt to a community vote based on people who have kids in the school system. I don't think that 13 board members should have the power to make this kind of decision. If it's a decision as significant as it is, it needs to come down to the greater majority of people. I was deemed an essential worker. I do heating and cooling. I've been working through this pandemic the entire time. Most people called in during the pandemic with no heat. If I said that, no, I'm sorry, there isn't a decision based on what I should or shouldn't do right now, that person's, out of heat. And there's going to be bigger effects because I did not go service that. I took precautions on what I should and shouldn't do. I wore a mask. I, wore gloves, this and that and the other, sprayed my vehicle down. I took the precautions I needed to do my job. I did not take and turn it off. If I turned it off, other people would suffer. Same goes for the teachers in this circumstance. The teachers decided on which road they were going to follow when they made their choice in life to become a teacher. Nobody saw this pandemic coming. It's an act of God. You can't predict anything about that. But what needs to happen is life will go on. We need to adapt. We need to do everything we can in our power to adjust. I had a few talking points on here. I was right on board with the lady, KDS, that called in. She made the same statement that the teachers don't get a pass on this. Well, there's many professions out there that don't get a pass on this, and we take them for granted each and every day. We wouldn't be able to have this Zoom meeting right now if somebody didn't go to work and make this happen. Let me look over my notes here. Another thing, back to the bullet points of the superintendent, he mentioned that we didn't want to be followers. We wanted to lead by example and make Waterford a statement, and to make the right choices. I would advise you to make the right choice and let there be choice. You should have two different roads you can go down as a parent. You should be able to send your kid to school if you would like to. You should be able to do online learning if you'd like to. I'm sure there's teachers that do one or the other. There should be choice. It shouldn't be one size fits all. Just like anything else in this world, you should have choice. It shouldn't come down to, a vote of, like I said, the 13 members here, and that's it. I think it's bigger than that. And I've been listening to the people calling in here, and I hear a lot of that. And I've been watching each and every one of you. I don't know if you can see me, but I've been watching each and every one of you for the last hour and a half or so. And I can see the people who are really paying attention and the people who are not. And I do get that it's late, and I understand that you're tired. I put in a 14-hour workday today myself, and then come down to watch this because it's important. Important things need to be addressed. I do thank you all for your time. I know it's a huge decision, and I hope that you listen to the majority and not an agenda. I hope you really do listen to these people say that their lives will be affected one way or the other, and that one way or the other, if they had choice in the matter, if the people have the choice as to which road they want to go down, that should be the way we go. It shouldn't be one size fits all. I thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to get on here and address you.
Thanks, Brandon. Jay Smith. Hi, Jay Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for staying online this whole entire time and listening to everyone's comments. It shows you care. This is something the entire community is obviously very passionate about. It's our children. I made a couple quick notes. I'm going to keep it real quick. We love our teachers. I'm hearing the teachers that were concerned. I think what people are being critical over, and it may not come across that way, we were critical over how virtual didn't work for our families. Not that virtual was bad, but all of the ways that it didn't work for us, it added frustrations. You can hear that coming through the calls. You can hear that coming through the parents. And it could be coming across incorrectly as an attack on the teachers, and that's not the case. My daughter's in elementary school, and I tell you, when her teacher towards the end of the school year showed up at the end of the driveway for a distant hello, just from the end of the driveway saying, "Hello, friend," my daughter lit up, and I was in tears. It shows how much our teachers truly care about the kids in the community. So it was a learning curve for all of us, and we still haven't found the ideal solution yet. That said, this has been 5 months, not 5 weeks, 5 months. We're talking about doing more virtual for the next 3 to 4 months. This virus isn't going away. They're already telling us that it's mutating, that we've had the flu vaccines out there for how many years? It mutates every single year. This isn't going away. We need to flatten the curve. We're not eliminating the curve, so we need to pull our heads out of the sand as a community, as a society, and know that this virus isn't going anywhere, even if we get a vaccine. So we need to figure out how to make solutions that are going to work for us, not just short-term, long-term. We need to find solutions that are going to work. That said, let's keep getting creative. Appreciate the work everyone that is putting in. In the short term, and I also wanted to say I appreciate that you're opening the virtual academy enrollment back up. I chose in-person learning. Now I need to do a deep dive crash course learning on what the remote learning versus the virtual academy is all about. I appreciate having that option now. I can say with the virtual learning, having an elementary student, one of the things that will not work for me being a working parent, my husband as well, is having these structured, it starts at 8:15, it goes until 3:45. I'm just coming up with arbitrary times. But every 20 minutes, something is going to be changing and she needs to be in front of a computer because she's going to get frustrated. She's going to need help. So if there's an option where we can start live and then depending upon what our workday throws at us, we can potentially put that on pause. And there is a system or a way for the school to see where she's hit pause or needed a break and picked back up so we can go back and maybe watch a pre-recorded or after the fact joining in non-live. Kids, especially the small kids, they just don't have the bandwidth to be able to sit down and for 4 to 6 hours straight and just be able to absorb a lesson. So if there is a way for us to get creative while we're going through this to allow the kids to get paused so that when the parents can have that opportunity to jump in and show them and help them and give them the assistance they need so they're not falling behind or missing out, we'd really appreciate having that option. So again, appreciate that everyone's trying to come together and find a solution that's going to work for the majority of us. There is no one size fits all, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Okay. Becky Lesh, Moto E5 Play. Are you with us, Moto E5 Play? All right, one more time. The floor is yours. Moto E5. Okay. Okay. How about Olivia V? Hi, Olivia. Olivia, have you hung in with us? There you are.
Being heard.
Hi, Olivia.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Cool. I've been here since 6:30.
Thank you so much thank you for sticking.
I am going to be a junior at Mott High School. I am in the STEM program and I've been a part of the Waterford School District since before kindergarten. And at the end of last year, it did not work for me and it didn't work for many people I do know. We were given the choice and we were saying that the risk was worth it to us, and I think that needs to be considered. We knew the risks for both, but we said that was worth it because we need to be there. I have diagnosed anxiety and depression. I've had it since I was 3 years old. I have a single dad who owns his own business, who he is gone a lot. I have to be in a class to be able to learn. I have a 504, and I also get free meals because my dad has 3 kids. We get free meals, but I also am allergic to gluten, so I get free gluten-free meals. And at the end of last school year, I wasn't able to get my gluten-free meals once the school shut down, and that put a really big struggle on my dad. And I will be driving myself to school. We put in that when we get to school, I will not be taking the bus. I also believe that if people are doing that, they shouldn't have to pay for parking passes at the school because I know that some people, they weren't able to drive last year because of the parking pass situation. And if it's such a big thing, I know I will wear a mask. I'm a nanny for a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I was just with them a couple nights ago, and they saw a person walking by them and they said, no, you're too close. it's a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old that we're saying, oh no, you gotta stay away, you're too close. So kids understand it, even little kids. And us as teenagers, we're able to make that choice for ourselves. And I think that's a big thing. And I'm a STEM student. I have been since 9th grade. We have these things called surfaces in STEM that we use for a lot of our learning. We could use those instead of like books and notebooks. That would take away having to go to lockers and stuff, because we have everything on this one thing. All our books, we could take notes on different classes, have them just all in there. That would take away having locker visits and stuff like that. That's it.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Olivia. Thank you.
Dr. Ristich, I know it's not a time for question and answer. I just don't know if I would be able to get back to Olivia, and I just wanted to let her know that food service will provide meals for you that are gluten-free. They did do that. We just have to make sure that we get you in contact with the right people. So I know it's not question and answer, but I didn't know how to reach her to tell her that. So thanks for letting me interrupt.
Sure. Okay, SummerSlam. Hi, SummerSlam.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. I have also been on here since the beginning.
Thank you
for your time. Thank you very much for everyone, really all the teachers. And I know they're not on here. Suitcase, I had 3 kids at Grayson, and I think everybody's done a fantastic job. I'm sorry if you can hear the kids in the background. A couple of them are crying now. I'm really looking forward to actually the virtual myself. It kind of seems that it may be going that way. I'm not real sure about the remote learning. I never saw that posed until today. I heard about it, just at being on here. It's a couple concerns I have. For one, is it going to be real teachers and not a company? Because I've heard mixed things that it's going to be a different company hired in. Maybe that's going to be a different company for virtual versus remote learning. A couple issues, and honestly, I was one of the ones, and thank you for using the name there, because I was part of the SummerSlam, and I think the kids did great on that. And truthfully, in speaking with some of the teachers in the district, and I've been around for a minute, I've been in the area for quite a while and know quite a few people, and talking with them, they even admit, your kids learn about an hour, maybe an hour and a half per day. And it's really not a lot. That's really for every district, not just Waterford. And I think a lot of parents are upset the way things are going, but it is what it is, and it's not your choice necessarily. But I think it's just that the parents need to get on board and stop bashing or being upset with you guys. It's just the way it is, and I'm actually looking forward to not getting lice notes. I really am. And I'm afraid if my kid goes to school and has the temperature, they're going to be off for 5 days. I'm not looking forward to that. I think the parents, got to get on board with it. They really do. The Google Classrooms, I think, was okay. You were thrown into it. Everybody was thrown into it. You really didn't have much choice. Yeah, some were better than others, but at the end of the day, kids were still learning. They were still able to see their peers, maybe from a different school. The SummerSlam was really neat, and I think that was better than the original. And I know not everyone on here even knows what SummerSlam is, but I think it went pretty well. Sure, there's hiccups and everything. I'm not a real big fan of Dreambox, Prodigy, on the elementary level. It's more game-based, but I do like the Khan Academy. I do like, the Lexia. And I think if we all get on the same agenda, and I love the agenda, looking at virtual versus school, it seemed to me that there was more learning. There was actually a half hour dedicated to a lunch. And I've been to the school many a times and have lunch with my children. They're in and out of that cafeteria before they did the rebuild in 10 minutes. Whistles blowing, these kids are out throwing their lunches out. They don't even have time to eat. Yet you got a half hour dedicated to that now. You got a half hour dedicated to recess or playtime after. So there's certain aspects that are just, to me, fantastic. And actually there is a social studies period. There is a math. There's so many things that are great. But if I could maybe just point out a couple things where it was kind of, and a lot of it's been redundant tonight, and I know you guys have been through a lot listening to the same over and over. But if somehow, some way we could maybe get rid of, the virtual part of podcasts, where a kid just sits there and listens, maybe actually do more hands-on, or if a child were to actually sit there, not to be able to get to a teacher at any time they want, but maybe not even just send an email out and hope to get a response the next day, but if they were able to go on and have more than just a half hour in the morning, that'd be fantastic. Because that's usually what it is. You got a half hour in the morning, all this work's thrown at you, and then you, the parent, have to go through it and navigate and make sure everything's done. And the printouts, my kids knock those out in a day and a half. Those are printouts that anybody could do online. I would just love for there to be, I guess, some more direction on that. But I love the fact that it's bracketed down. I'm not understanding why parents aren't seeing how it was, because that was definitely a PDF file that was sent out. It showed the agenda. Again, I'd rather it to be teachers as opposed to a hired company. Not to reiterate again, podcast, well, it's nice to have a kid just actually listen to see if they can focus and learn from just listening, but I don't think that was really great. But I think that everybody's done a great job. Everything was thrown at you at once. Maybe less YouTube videos and more hands-on, more teachers, more directive, and keep moving forward. I think you guys have all done a great job. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you, all of you, very much so, for doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much, SummerSlam.
Got it.
Okay, Shelly. Hey, Shelly.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing all right. And you?
I'm good. So I'm actually a student at Waterford Kettering, Kettering. I'm going into my senior year this year, and I chose to do the virtual academy. First, I want to just explain some things about myself, and then I'll just say a couple things about how this is all making me feel. But first of all, I didn't really struggle as bad as some parents are saying their children did, in the spring with Google Classroom and stuff. I am older though than some of the parents were saying their kids were, how they're in in younger grades. So that does make a difference. But also I'm not anyone else's child. I don't have the same learning abilities they do. I don't have the same attention span they do or the same lifestyle that they do. We're all different, and we can't base things on just one student, 2 students, or even 50. We all learn differently, and the springtime was different for all of us. So that makes a big difference. We're all different people, we're all different kids, we're all different students. So you just can't base it on one person. Another thing is, personally, I'm terrified to go back to school, to go back to in-person. I'm an awful hypochondriac, and I think that basically I'm sick 24/7. I just tested positive for mono 3.5 weeks ago, and I still have no idea where I got it from or who I got it from. I've not been around anyone but my family and my boyfriend since March 12th when we got out of school. When I go anywhere, such as the store, I wear a mask, I use hand sanitizer, I wash my hands, and I social distance. I was even wearing gloves a couple months ago, but then people started, giving me dirty looks and stuff, and I was like, maybe I am crazy, and so I stopped doing that. I also have really bad anxiety, and going to school can be hard as it is sometimes. I get panic attacks, and it's hard to breathe and stuff, and so it's difficult sometimes. Being quarantined has made it hard to go out in public now, and I can't imagine myself being at school with these changes right now and being around a bunch of people, specifically people who I know that are not going to wear a mask. But again, this is just me, no one else, and I understand that. And I'm 17, and I can understand that this is just me, so I think that other people should be able to understand that as well. Again, firsthand, I know that there will be students who will not wear a mask. They'll take it off as a joke, or because they don't want to wear one. I will not sit in a classroom where I'm constantly being distracted by students taking off their masks. And my learning is constantly being interrupted by teachers having to tell them to keep their masks on. I won't do it. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to the other people around me who are there to learn and to get an education. That's just not fair. I struggled really hard choosing whether or not I wanted to do virtual or in person. I'm involved in Kettering's leadership class, and that's the best part of my day. That's where all my friends are, and not being able to finish off our events last year with the seniors really sucked. Knowing we won't be able to have any of our events this upcoming semester sucks as well, but if that is what needs to happen, then it will. Same with NHS and Link Crew and Student Council. I want to participate in all these things again, especially because it's my senior year, but I would rather save the lives of teachers, students, family, and friends. So, I mean, that's just how I feel personally. That's just all personal things, basically. But also, I feel like I haven't really heard anyone say this. I know a couple parents have, but this decision genuinely needs to be based on if it's safe for us to go back, and if it's safe for people to not get sick and to not become ill and pass away. Like, I mean, that is what needs to be focused on, in my opinion, and I'm a student saying that, and I think that that's what parents need to focus on as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Samantha H. Hi, Samantha. Samantha? Okay, Moto E5 play. I see you're here. You're back. Okay, Moto E5, you've got the floor. Seth Fox. Hi, Seth.
Hi. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Seth Fox and I am a student. I originally wasn't going to say anything, but after listening to the past meeting and then listening to 5 hours of this meeting, I am convinced that there is, in fact, a best decision that this board can make. And I think that that is the decision that this board should make is to allow parents to make the choice between letting their child go back to school or being online. Every body of government must make a decision that is best for their constituents. And oftentimes that means choosing between liberty and authority. In Waterford, we must choose liberty. Respectfully, Superintendent Lindbergh said that he wants to be a leader. So we in Waterford must show leadership. The plan laid forth did not show leadership at all. It talked about what other communities were doing. And even more than half of the time was spent on talking about spending money on vacations for teachers instead of investing in students and the community. The point about 60%, 40% has been brought up many times tonight. If parents continue to pursue this decision, it will shrink classroom sizes and provide opportunities for social distancing. Next, since we want to compare, our situation in Waterford to the situation in other communities, let's talk about the economic inequality that affects Waterford here at home. Other families, like families in Bloomfield Hills and West Bloomfield, they are making a lot more money than families in Waterford. There are parents in Waterford that must go out to put food on their tables. Other people aren't so worried about money because they have so much of it. We in Waterford, there are so many people that need to work for that, and they can't have the kids at home. They can't leave them alone. If they don't have childcare or whatever, they just need to be able to go out and work. Further, as brought up by many people earlier, we need to talk about the mental health. Right now, the suicide rates are much higher. And, a friend of mine actually took his own life when school was in session and crisis resources were available. So while crisis resources are not available right now, or you have to access them remotely, it's just not a good opportunity. You know, kids have to have the opportunity to go to school and make that choice. And you know, I just wanted to add that I think that, you know, obviously there are people that are concerned about, there are members that are concerned about the children, but I think a lingering thought in many people's minds is that they want to protect their own reputation. However, I think that many of the parents here value and demand this choice between being online and being in person. And these upset parents will remember their frustration when they vote in November, and November of 2022, 2024, 2026, and every election on. And if you perpetuate this frustration, they will vote you out. You know, we are community, and we must all make sacrifices. And online school doesn't work for many families. And a mandate might destroy not only our great community, but the future of this country. You know, we are the first generation that has had to run active shooter drills. We are the first generation that has had to deal with cyberbullying. But that's the world that we're living in right now, and it's constantly evolving, and we must learn to deal with this virus because it is not going away anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sharon. Hey, Sharon.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How do I follow that? Okay, I wanted to say thank you to the board members, to the administrators, to the teachers. All are very good. We are very lucky to have some very good teachers in this district. I am for, and we voted for going to face-to-face education this year. I am the mother of a senior, and I wanted to voice my opinion for the seniors. I'm hoping that if the classes are virtual and